It's 5:30 p.m. on Monday, November 14th, 2022. I will call this regular meeting of the Kingsville Independent School District to order. We'll have a roll call. Joe Morales. Here. Martine Chapa. Here. David Garcia. Here.
Here.
James Glusing. Delma Salinas. Brian Coupal is here. Let the record show there is a quorum of board members present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We move to the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, like allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one nation.
This meeting will be live video streamed at https://bit.ly3srolqr. We move to item number 4, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Motion made by Ms. Ramos. Seconded by Mr. Morales. Before we vote on that, I want to make one announcement. Because we have in closed executive session tonight, a level 3 hearing and deliberation, and we have opposing counsel who's going to be appearing by Zoom. We are going to, wherever we are in this meeting, adjourn if we need to, or suspend if we need to go into that level 3 grievance hearing at 6:30. It may well be done. But I just wanted to make that announcement. That's when that attorney can, and our attorneys can be available. So with that in mind and the motion to adopt the agenda, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 5, public participation. Ms. Pettis, do we have anyone who wishes to address the board?
No, sir.
All right, we move to item number 6, which is communication from administration. 6A is the superintendent's update. Dr. Pettis.
Good evening. Before we begin, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Odie Moreno, who was instrumental in planning everything for last week's Veterans Day celebrations and the War Memorial. And thank you to all our principals who sent students represented, and to Dr. Williams, who sang so beautifully for the event as well. Thank y'all so much. Okay. Okay, the first thing we're going to begin with is the beginning of year assessment data. I've asked Dr. Farah to come over here and share the PowerPoint with you that you received last week, at the end of last week. And then Ms. Ceballos is on Zoom for us. This year, the students took their their assessments online. So for the first time, they took them online. So it was quite different. Also the redesign, but so we're not comparing the exact exam they took last year in the fall to this year. If anything, it was more difficult, but at least it tells us where we're at and what we need to work on. And even though some of the data does not look like what we would love for it to look at this time, we've got to be very real about where we are and use it to steer or to drive our instruction. I want to thank all of the teachers and the staff and the principals, everybody who's been working to help make sure that our students are going to be prepared to take the online assessment that is required by TEA this year. I thank also our CNI department for everything they're doing to try to prepare our students for this assessment. Dr. Farah?
Good evening, President Kupal, Dr. Pettis, board members. I'm here to present the BOY data. And so we're going to start with our in-class data. It's different from last year. This is a new diagnostic that we're giving this year. What I like about this diagnostic is the teachers voted to utilize it, and we can look at longitudinal data from kinder through 3rd grade. In the past, we haven't been able to look at longitudinal data, so that is one of the pluses for this diagnostic. What we are looking at in kindergarten is phonemic awareness, letters and sounds, decoding, and word reading. It is a one-to-one assessment, so teachers work one-to-one with the students as they assess them. In 1st grade, we're looking at phonemic awareness, letter sounds, decoding, word reading, and they add in reading fluency at this point. When we go to 2nd and 3rd grade, the phonemic awareness is taken out, but they do look at letter sounds, decoding, word reading, reading fluency, and then they add in basic comprehension. So each year, each grade level, they're adding in an additional skill or taking away a skill that students should have obtained at that point. Okay, so let's look at our kinder data. This is our baseline data, our beginning of the year. This is district-wide. We have 175 kindergarten students. 48% are considered well below benchmark. And then we have 18% below benchmark, 13% at benchmark, and 21% above benchmark. What that looks like broken down, and I'm sorry, the graph might be a little small, but the blue is Harold, the maroonish red one is Harvey, and the purple is Bettis. So as I broke it down by campus, you can see that Harold has 56 students, 50% are well below. Let me turn my page. 20% are below, 14% are at benchmark, and 16% are above benchmark. The number in the parentheses are the actual number of students that percentage represents. Oh, did y'all get the? Yes, ma'am, I apologize. Yes, we added the breakdown.
At the request, yeah.
Yeah,
at your-
I just requested to see what the differences are with the elementary.
Oh, we went ahead and included it in the new packet that we gave you. We broke it down by elementaries.
Could you define benchmark?
So which ones have acquired the minimum passing for the phonemic awareness, the letter sounds? It's a formula that they use, and I'm not as familiar with the specifics of it.
Let me phrase it another way. Kindergarten. This may be this child's first exposure to school.
Yes,
They may know zero.
correct.
So shouldn't the benchmark at the beginning of kindergarten be zero?
So this is looking at the
At the
end.
end of the year.
Yes, it's looking at the end of the year,
It's not surprising that we have lots of kids that aren't.
not at all.
Got it.
Not for kindergarten, no, sir.
That kind of makes me wonder what the other districts, because I know they use different testing for their benchmarks, but how do we compare the type of students we're getting in comparison to other districts? Are they getting 48%? Are they getting like 32?
So I can look around. I know other local districts utilize the M class, but they've been using it for a couple of years longer. So I know when we first switched over at a previous district, the data was pretty consistent to what we're seeing here. The good thing about M class, which I was gonna say towards the end, but I'll say it now, is that on the platform, we can pull specific groups based on this data. And we can also pull lessons. So during their AI time for kinder through third grade, they're gonna be able to pull small group. And then it'll be specific to those students that are in the well below and say they're well below in letter sounds. So then it gives them activities to work on for letter sounds, where they can do flashcards and then what's the sound, apple kind of a thing. And so the platform allows for that for all three of the grade levels.
Does this M class get harder and harder, or is it the same benchmark throughout the year?
That I can't answer at this point. I can let you know. I can look into it. I believe it's the same information. It's a 30, I believe they have like 30 seconds to complete the test, like each section. They have a certain number of time. It's a timed assessment, but it's a good assessment. It'll give us better data than TextKia and the TPRI gave us.
So I have a question, I guess. When Brian mentioned something that these kindergartens are at zero. We've invested, I think it's an investment in KISD to use the campus. Okay, so what can we do as a administration to get KISD to teach our kids that are coming this way? Am I right? What is it that we can do? Because we're letting them use the building. Okay. What is it you think we can do as administration to get these people, get KISD to have our kids know something when they come into kindergarten?
Sure, absolutely. So some of the things that we are starting to work on with our students at Playberg is first, we're starting to collaborate. So I'm starting to work with the representative over there so that we can start collaborating, inviting them to our professional development, because this year our pre-K teachers are receiving more professional development on phonology and phonemic awareness than they have in the past. And so it's just opening that door of communication. I plan on, and Dr. Pez has been asking me to go over there, sit with them, have where we're visiting campuses where they can come visit some of our teachers can go over there. We're working on read alouds, just pieces of the foundational skills that our teachers need. So it's a lot of the communication is starting. Our next steps are going to be to have them come and work with our staff on professional development.
Now, 2 weeks ago or last week, Dr. Bessanice and I went and met with them to see their new STEAM room that they're gonna have, which is not STEM, but now STEAM, and Dr. Silva also from the university. So we're gonna be collaborating, and you'll get more information about that, about a grant that we're looking at to do some more STEAM activities. And then also working with the basic reading skills as well. I'm really excited because the room looks really, really good about where they want to have the center, and we want to replicate that at at our district as well. The kids are, you're gonna see, I mean, they're severely behind, especially third grade that never had kinder. They were remote the whole year. And meeting with the superintendents, they had a superintendent roundtable at the university. And Dr. Vela was asking us about where are our needs? And almost every one of us said third grade. The kids did not learn their phonics, they did not learn their blends. A lot of that is, the learning loss is huge in that grade level. And that was a hot topic today at our meeting. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of the result of COVID for sure.
Absolutely, and we are working on those foundational skills. Our ITCs are receiving professional development to then roll out to the teachers as well. So we're yes,
Sorry.
sir.
So these results are basically for 3 months of instruction, September, October?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
So are they gonna be tested again?
Middle of the year in January when we come back from Christmas, and then again at the end of the year. So we're looking to see the growth.
And last year, so that's why we included last year's results. You'll see where we were last year at this time. And the growth that happened, that ended up happening, we hope to continue that again this year. But again, the test is gonna be online this year, and the kids have got to learn how to maneuver all the little parts of, I mean, think about a little 7-year-old having to, 8-year-old having to take the test online. It's a new world for them. So the more practice that they get from typing and learning some of those typing skills, the better. I know I said that on my robocall, but I mean, we really, really need to push the kids learning some of the basic, because they may know the information. Some of the teachers told me that at the table talk I had just this last week, that, some of our kids actually know the information, but they're so frustrated by the typing part, that they may just be pushing, and unfortunately, the state of Texas the TA is just saying they're gonna take it online.
And Dr. President, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but are they gonna be using a desktop?
Yeah, they have their devices or laptops. So like for the BOY, this beginning of year assessment, every student had a device, every student had a laptop that they worked on.
So no option for like an iPad, for example? That's something that I'm sure they're used to, probably going up with iPads.
The little ones are the ones using mainly the iPads for smarty ads and things like that. But the others are using the Chromebooks and what kind, Doctor, is it the Lenovo's?
They're all Chromebooks.
They're all Chromebooks.
Chromebooks. It's not big.
I think the ECHS kids use Lenovo's, right?
And some of the feedback we received is to purchase mice for the students, because they're having to drop and drag and click on different points. So each campus is purchasing mice to assist with the test taking. First grade BOY, we had 71 out of 175 first grade students across the district, 71 students or 40% were well below benchmark. 20% were below benchmark, 25 were at benchmark, and 15% were above benchmark. And then here it is broken down by campus. So at Harrell, we had 44 students total, 50% are well below benchmark, 23% below benchmark, 20% are at benchmark, and 7% are above benchmark. At Harvey, we have 70 students, 37%. Oh, hello. Oh, there it is. 37% are well below benchmark, 16% are below benchmark, 34% are at benchmark, and 13% are above benchmark. And at Bettis Elementary with 61 students, we have 38% well below benchmark, 23% below benchmark, 16% at benchmark, and 23% above benchmark. As we move to second grade, we have 181 students across the district. We have 43% well below benchmark, 14% below benchmark, 25% at benchmark, and 18% above benchmark. These were the kindergartners that started the year that we were half online and half face-to-face, or they had the option of both. So across the district, At Harrell, we have 50 second grade students, 34% are well below benchmark, 18% are below benchmark, 28% are at benchmark, and 20% are above benchmark. At Harvey, with 58 second grade students, 43% are well below benchmark, 14% are below benchmark, 24% are at benchmark, and 19% are above benchmark. And at Bettis Elementary, with 73 students, we have 47% well below benchmark, 12% below benchmark, 25% at benchmark, and 16% above benchmark. So as we stated with our third graders across the district, this is where we're seeing our biggest need with phonics and phonemic awareness. Third grade teachers have reached out and we adjusted our professional development based on their needs. And we had our ITCs work with them on small group, on phonics and more is what it was called. And then we also worked, one of the ITCs and I presented on small group guided reading instruction so that we can support our third grade students. So of our 215 students, 57% are well below benchmark, 15% are below benchmark, 10% are at benchmark, and 18% are above benchmark. Across the campuses, at Harrell with 50 students, 72% are well below benchmark, 12% are below benchmark, 6% are at benchmark, and 10% are above benchmark. Harvey with 98 students has 57% well below benchmark, 17% below benchmark, 7% at benchmark, and 19% above benchmark. And at Bettis Elementary, we have 67 students with 46% well below, 15% below, 18% at, and 21% above benchmark. One of the other things that we talked about was setting a standard for each grade level as students acquire reading. So we are looking at ensuring that at least 85%, we're going to build to this, of our kindergartners are leading kinder reading as an expectation. I think as we work towards that goal, you'll see these numbers increase. It is going to take us some time, but that is a goal. The other thing we've done is we purchased a supplemental resource for our students at the teacher's request, and we also trained them on it, and it's called Hegarty. It's a phonological awareness program or resource that takes about 10 minutes in the class period. It has hand signals to help students blend sounds, put words together, compound words, it puts them together. They have I'm doing the hand signals and everything. So that we can ensure that our students are acquiring those phonological awareness skills. So that's our BOY diagnostic data. Do y'all want to ask me any more questions before we move on to the next few slides, which will be our BOY common assessment data? We don't have to if you don't want to. I just have it all ready in case you would like to.
But this is open records if anybody needs to.
Yes.
Okay. The one thing I was noticing here that this is just pretty much all over the map. There's no commonality in hardly any of it. Other than we need to call in over. We're stacked in the well below benchmark area for a lot of these grades. What is it? What is it? Has approaches, meets, and masters? What's below approaches? Is that fail? Like
When it comes to the STAR assessment and the common assessment, correct. It's does not meet, approaches, meets, and then masters.
Not good. And I am noticing that a lot of the, especially in the special education, is when they both need help in reading, and they're doing better math.
That is correct.
So I'm confused because a lot of our math at grade 3 had so many words in it. So we're going to start losing those third graders to our math because you have to read it. Right.
Yes. And that's why we are really focusing on the phonics, the phonemic awareness, and the small group reading instruction.
noticed the history is doing okay. All that thing all the way in high school.
And the algebra.
Whatever's going on there, I don't know. What do you have prior to history though? What was that, eighth grade what?
Social studies.
It's 8th grade US history as well.
So whoever's in that class obviously is doing a fine job, because when they get to ninth grade US history, they're doing.
US history.
And 11th grade.
Okay, well, it's US history, I mean, you've got 30% needs, it's higher than most of the other subjects on here.
So US history,
Approaches.
that's always our highest.
So what's going on in the previous year to this class? Is that how y'all look at things? Me as an outsider, I'm seeing somebody's doing something right here. So who is the one that had his kids prior to?
So for reading and math, we do look at how its scaffolds are built from year to year. As far as US history, there's not really a test that we could compare it to previously. One of the things we have started this past year for curriculum writing was ensuring that we wrote pacing guides for 1st through 8th grade science and social studies. The previous year we hadn't had the pacing guides to ensure that we were all on pace. We knew that that was going to be needed this year, especially because the reading passages with the new STAR redesign will have science and social studies type passages. So we've been looking at aligning across all grade levels.
We have a very strong teaching staff at the high school in US history. 11th grade.
That's staff way further than any other subject that we have here, even in special education as well.
Yes.
I attribute a lot of that to the teacher, also the curriculum that she's looking at and working very closely with our CNI department. They're very strong in that. And the algebra one, the staff has really embraced everything that we're doing as well. That staffing.
I would say the staffing change in the high school has probably been a positive change, as well as they're sticking to their pacing when last year the pacing wasn't as on target as it is this year.
And then in English, I know we went and did some walks last week and visited the 4 classes, and I was so impressed with them as far as them working together collegially and accepting, being open to the recommendations that Ms. Abios and the Odell trainers were also doing. So it's all in, is everybody gonna work together to move this forward? And we're seeing that. So that's a big help. But the lower grades, I mean, if you didn't have, if you were online as a kindergartner, learning phonics, the basic reading skills the foundation, this is where the struggle is, and the struggle is real.
So do y'all want me to complete the presentation, or just if y'all have any other questions?
You guys can see what needs help in areas. That's not our job. I'm just looking at it as like it's kind of all over the place in a sense.
Well, they're pretty consistent as far as it seems like the schools seem to be pretty consistent. The elementaries, I mean, if they're poor on this side, they're poor, pretty much across the district. And that's just because, again, of the result of.
But then there's a big difference between 2021 and 2022 in a lot of those aspects.
Right.
Kind of all over the place, to be honest with you.
I think the biggest difference is because last school year, 2021, everything was paper pencil. Everything was right there. They were straightforward type questions. What we're noticing this year is everything is online, but we're also using the new item types so that the students are exposed to and can practice. And so because there's a difference in the way the test looks and them taking it online, it's just a new situation. They are practicing at the lower grade levels. Every weekly assessment and unit assessment in reading and math, they are taking on the online platform, as well as skills checks at the secondary level. And their 6 weeks and 9 week assessments are all online as well. We are just seeing a dip because of the transition, I believe, from paper pencil to online, plus the new question types.
The middle schoolers must be digging it because their grades were better than last year using utilized.
We are seeing a lot of gains in the middle school. I like to look at it as our baseline data. This is where we're at, and we have only up to go from here, and I believe that we will do that. With hard work, our teachers are amazing, and as we implement our strategies, I truly believe that the next time we show you benchmark data, we will see some improvements. For reading, we are going to add in revise and edit questions to the assessment because this year, 3rd through 8th grade are going to be tested on revise and edit, as well as short response and extended responses. So we're slowly bringing those pieces into our reading assessment data. So for 3rd grade, I mean, it's for 3rd through 8th grade reading, you're going to see some dips because it's completely new for them. It's like an EOC English 1 and 2 assessment. Just giving y'all a heads up on it.
And now, you need explanation for dummies. I get confused every single year. Let's go to, they're not numbered, but elementary reading data, the very first one past the bar graphs. I want to make sure I understand approaches, meets, and masters. 3rd grade, the numbers are 32% for 2022, 32, 10, and 4. The 4% in masters is included in the 10% in meets, and both of those are included in the 32% of approaches, correct?
That is correct.
Right. How far off of meets does approaches go?
It just depends on the grade level and the content area and what the state deems the coverage should be.
So really what this is also telling us is that we've got 68% of 3rd graders that just not even close.
That's great.
They didn't meet the approaches level, but they could just be 1 or 2 questions away from that approaches. And so as we look at our data and do the DDI protocol, one of the things that we have added to this year is looking at our quintile reports. And basically it's the students by questions, and then we look at, okay, who was close to that cut point? How many students were truly 1 to 2 questions away? And so principals are tracking that data as well.
I have a question. How many years have you been on the board where you've heard someone stand up here and say that there are a lot of those kids that are 1 or 2 questions away from getting approaches? Should we ask for that to be included in there? The 1 to 2 questions away from approaches, so we can get more data?
I can give you that information.
I don't know so much that it's important for the board to know that. It's almost like saying, you know, the week after the football game, well, how close was the field goal? Doesn't matter. Maybe they did it. But the fact that y'all are able to analyze that and pull out the reports to know, give the special instruction. So while I don't want to go through this page by page, I do think it's important that we kind of go over the next steps.
Yes, sir.
It is important for teachers to know how close they were to approaches because it gives them hope. Especially gives the students some hope that you're just right there and you can get there. But I think for the board and the presentation, it is what it is. I mean, it's just, we still have work, so much work to do.
So for the elementary, like I had said before, we have some pre-K through 3rd grade phonological awareness resources and training that we've been providing. We've also done training on guided reading for kinder through 5th grade and how to use small groups. We've talked about kinder through 5th grade reading level proficiencies. Where do we want each of our grade levels students leaving that grade level reading at? We've looked at our text-based responses using claim, evidence, and reasoning, which is our CERs. Those are going to help us with our short responses on our reading exam. We've gone to STAR online platform training and practice for students, and we are going to be looking into the TFAR. K through 5, our district math coach, she's been going to campuses, providing support K-12, but she specifically has gone to our PLCs. She's worked with the teachers on creating exemplars for math, and then she's worked with math and science teachers on vocabulary in the content areas. Also, we have our K-5 science, we have our ITCs coaching on STEM scopes, and then we're training them as well on STEM scopes, our ITCs that may not have had enough exposure because we do have a new ITC. We are looking at our accelerated instruction time and how we're providing supports to our K-3 students, and then of course our 4th and 5th grade are required to follow the protocol. We've been looking at our DDI protocol and spiraling in our high frequency teaks and which of our students are we monitoring that are close to either approaches, meets, or masters, because we want to keep them moving forward. So we want hoppers, not droppers. That's the phrase that we use. We want hoppers going forward. We don't want anybody dropping backwards. And then we've been doing instructional walks with our ITCs. So all of our ITCs have gotten together and we've gone on campuses and gone into classrooms looking for commonalities. We've also done this with our principals. We've calibrated on what instruction are we seeing in the classrooms. At the secondary, the October 21st professional development, it did focus on the DDI protocol. They're going to be looking on the 28th at playbook strategies and our Get Better Faster TIL, our instructional walks, accelerated instruction, again, instructional walks, calibration with our principals, PLC sessions. They're doing data reviews and goal setting, targeted tutoring, spiraling high frequency teaks in their lesson plans. They've gotten some instructional coaching sessions for Algebra 1 and middle school math. And then we have our English 1 and 2 Odell consultant coming and providing feedback as well.
I think what's important to reiterate is about the PLC sessions, because our teachers at the secondary, they have conference period, but they also have a PLC period. So that way they can meet. And then in the elementaries, we tried to infuse some of that. We weren't able to do as much, but secondary definitely doesn't have that. Now, Ms. Lorena Ceballos, if she's still on Zoom, did you have anything to add about the secondary?
Dr. Bettis, I can hear you guys coming in and out.
Do you have
Can you
anything?
hear me? I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, no, that was what Dr. Farah said was perfect. We have focused a lot on the PLC and what the PLC sessions should look like, what happens during the PLC, how to internalize lessons, how to break the data apart, and then how to continue to review and spiral their high frequency teaks back into the lessons. As we saw when we walked into the high school English classes, it is really a good thing to see the teachers are aligned with the curriculum. Of course, Odell is high quality instructional materials put out by TEA that was adopted in the district last year. So this is the second year with Odell, and you can see in the data the gains that have that have happened in the English classes from one year to the next, as you see the first common assessment from last year as compared to this year. Again, doing calibration walks with the principals, that empowers the principals to see, what are we looking for when we go into the classrooms. We look at the level of engagement of the student, and how they're interacting with the lesson to give the teachers feedback, timely feedback that they can implement in the moment.
The other key factor that we're really trying to work on is SPED, the special ed students. And we're working a lot with that. I know our special ed department, to try to get them the accommodations that they need and get them used to using the accommodations when they're taking the assessments.
Are students tracking their own data after each assessment?
Yes, sir.
Where they're at, or where they stand?
Yes, sir. We each campus received yellow file folders and data trackers, and each campus has the teachers meeting with each student to create goals for the next common assessment, and then so forth.
The student trackers need to be on here. We'll add that.
Yes.
Then last thing, everybody's if I may.
on the special ed students, we are looking at additional resources for our special ed teachers to utilize. So one of the products that we are right now reviewing with them is Bizzle. So what we also know about our children is not only do they have perhaps a reading disability or a math disability, but then how do our teachers accommodate for them at their level if they're in an inclusion classroom. So one of the things we've heard from our teachers here in Kingsville is we need some resources, we need some curriculum to also help that group. So we do have 2 different products that we are incorporating and looking into. I know Dr. Pitts is looking at ways we've had discussions about funding for them and how we can improve our scores that we see here before us for their special ed children.
Dr. Farrell, you said there is approximately a few more times that the students will practice this test.
Yes, sir.
And are they going to be using a computer or is it on paper?
It will be on the computer for the common assessments. So we have our next common assessments for secondary for the high school starting when we get back from Thanksgiving break. And then the following week, our middle school and elementaries. Then we have our benchmark. And then we will start our STAR testing early in April for English 3 through EOC 2 starts April. And then we have our science and social studies and then all of our math. So that, and it's a 2-week window, but we're trying to get them started so we can do makeups the second week because they'll overlap.
And the setting is set up like a real test, I would imagine.
Yes, sir.
But their skills checks are also, they're taking them online, they're, in addition to these major assessments. Thank you, Dr. Farrell.
Thank you.
All right, we move now to 6A2, intruder detection audit reports.
Is it an agenda item? Sorry, he was asking.
Yes, it is. All right, let's. Yeah, let's go a little out of order here because of the 6:30 deadline that we've got. If there's no objection, I'd like to move to item 7B. Discussion and possible action regarding the National Parental Involvement Day proclamation. Is that acceptable?
Since we have our guests here.
Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Kupo, Dr. Pettis, Board of Trustees. The National Parent Involvement Day is November the 17th. The day provides a yearly opportunity for schools and families to honor and highlight the powerful contributions parents and caregivers give at our school and home to support student success. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the Parental Involvement Day proclamation as presented. So I can read the proclamation real quick.
Yes, please.
Whereas the parent liaisons through the Federal Programs Department establish an informed support network for parents, encourage parent advocacy, and promote parental involvement in their child's education. Whereas family school partners are strengthened through good communications and mutual responsibility for children's learning. Whereas research has proven repeatedly that students achieve at higher levels and are more successful when parents value education highly and are actively involved in their child's education. Whereas the parent liaisons promote student attendance, strengthen personal relationships with parents, manage the parent volunteer programs, and build capacity through parental involvement meetings. Whereas this is a week for national and state parent involvement celebrations and pledges that recognize the importance of shared responsibility in the education of our children. Whereas the Kingsville Independent School District realizes the significance of the parents, businesses, and community members as partners in education, welcome full participation in all aspects of educational activities, and strongly encourage all parents to take an active role in the education of our children. Therefore, be it resolved that the Kingsville Independent School District Board of Trustees hereby proclaim November 17, 2022 as in Kingsville, Texas, and calls on all citizens as owners of the public school system to bear responsibility to participate by joining in the education of our children. So the administration recommends the board of trustees approve the parental involvement day proclamation as presented.
All right, board, we've heard the proclamation and the recommendation that we declare November 17th, 2022 as National Parent Involvement Day. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Morales. Second. Seconded by Mr. Chapa. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. I think we probably do have some parental involvement coordinators and liaisons here.
Yes.
If you would please stand and be recognized or come to the front, we certainly appreciate it.
Yes. We don't, please come over here, so we can, sure, thank you for all the support you give to our parents. Higher, like you pick up the camera a little bit higher.
Like this?
Yes.
All right.
I like to see your base. Thank you so much.
All right, we will now return to item 6A2, the intruder detection audit report, which can be found on page 31 to 40 of the packet. Dr. Sandor.
Thank you, Mr. Kupal. Back in the month of September, we were notified by the Education Service Center that we would be participating in a audit in the month of October. We were not notified which campus or which campuses would be involved as part of that audit, which all came about in regards to what happened over the course of last school year in Uvalde and the changes made to school safety throughout the state of Texas. So the intruder detection audit, again, was going to be conducted in the month of October. There were 4 areas that they were going to be looking at when they came to our campus. Phase 1 was going to be the intruder detection audit. Phase 2 was going to be the exterior door audit. Phase 3 would be classroom door audit. And the last one would be the weekly exterior door suite audit. So on October 11th, our unannounced visit was made at HM King. This visit was done with the Service Center in collaboration with the Texas School Safety Center. The auditor that came to our campus to try to, and this was done at HM King, they tried to enter the campus. The auditor was immediately intercepted by an HM King staff member. The auditor immediately identified themselves as the auditor from the service center. Our staff member, Ms. King or Ms. Science, immediately redirected the auditor to the front office according to our district procedure. The auditor was then escorted to check to the school to ensure the compliance of what they were going to be doing as part of the audit. So as part of the audit, these are some of the findings, and I'm going to kind of just briefly go over. I'll give a little more detail in closed session that are specific to the campus because we don't want to discuss any sensitive issues here in open session. But as a result of the findings, the school safety and security committee is required to meet and develop a plan to meet and train all campus staff as substitutes at the campus, identified that all exterior doors must be closed and properly locked. An in-person training must be conducted to review the findings of the intruder detected audit and allow for staff to give feedback on how to improve school safety procedures around closing and properly locking exterior doors. The school safety and security committee must develop a plan of action to address any doors that are broken or do not secure properly if indicated by the findings. And lastly, the KISD board of trustees is expected to provide the public at a regular scheduled board meeting with notice that intruder detection audit was conducted by the Texas School Safety Center and a corrective action plan was put in place due to the findings, while not releasing any sensitive issues or details regarding the audit in open session.
The plan and timeline on how these findings will be corrected should only be addressed, should also be addressed. The board should meet in executive session to discuss any detailed information about the findings at the campus level. Certification that these actions have taken place must be completed and submitted to the school safety center within 45 days of the initial notification. We got our notification on October the 14th of 2022. A copy of the school district safety and security committee meetings minutes that reflect their findings were reported and discussed. That will be reported to the Texas School Safety Center. Also, the meeting minutes must include the date all staff and substitutes at the campus were trained in regards to the safety procedures. The meeting minutes must also reflect that a plan of action has been put in place to address any doors that are broken and or not secured properly indicated by the findings. So that needs to be done as part of our school safety committee, which was held last week here at the boardroom. And a copy of the agenda for the school board's meeting that reflects the summary findings from the intruder detection audit that were presented. So we will get a copy of these minutes as well from today's board meeting, including as part of our submission to the Texas School Safety Center. The intruder detection audit report for Agent King was conducted on October 11th, as mentioned earlier. The district has to submit their corrective action plan. And since we were notified on October the 14th, 2020, our corrective actions are due no later than January 12th, 2023 to the Texas School Safety Center. So that meets our requirements to present to the board and an open session in regards to the actual audit that took place on October the 11th here in KISD. Again, in closed session, we'll go into more details, specifics on what were identified as part of the reports and the findings that were addressed in that report to us as well. Any questions?
So we are, we'll say for the executive session?
Yes, sir.
The more specifics in regards to things, we'll go a little more detail.
I appreciate the training that you mentioned Tammy King times as the first contact. And then directing her to the front office. I appreciate that. So that training I also need is working.
It is. It was a big change, Mr. Milos, from what we've had in the past and where we're at now. I mean, we've increased, tenfold in terms of security at all campuses in the district, and we feel very, very safe and secure that we've made some big changes, but still some things to do and improve on in terms of the security we're providing for our staff and our students at the campuses.
Thank you.
The front office has done an exceptional job in making us sign out also before we leave. And that's at pretty much every campus. They're laughing over there. Yes, us included. I tried to walk out at Harvey just to test. And sure enough, Mr. Munoz, where is he? Officer Munoz, he's like, can't go out that way. So we're testing and they're passing. So I know it's hard. I know it's hard because there's so many doors. But thank you for the effort.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you.
Team. All right, we move to item 6B, which is the budget recap report and the check register for October 2022. This can be found on pages 41 to 50 of our packet. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. Kupal, Dr. Pettis, members of the board. Going to go over a few of the items on the first page. There are many annual licenses that expired and were renewed with October payments, including a lot for instructional technology, also security software. At the top of the check register, you see a payment for a new special education bus, as well as some repairs that were also made separately to that vendor. Pleased to report that bus is already in operation, along with the other 3 new buses that we purchased earlier in the year. You look at RGO roofing and construction, the construction is already underway. All the materials have already been procured and they are giving weekly progress reports. The cost that you see there is the cost for materials. And we are providing partial payments each month as they show completion of the project. You look at Follett School Solutions, we had every textbook in the district inventoried and coded so that they can now be bar scanned, and that should be a lot easier to keep track of our inventory and hopefully not spend so much money replacing textbooks. We also purchased textbook inventory software as well with that vendor.
Because they had not been barcoded and neither have the laptops and technology, so we've been doing that too.
You also see Amazon. Amazon now we are able to buy many items cheaper than we can anywhere else. And since we can do it business wise and not pay any tax, it's just for the benefit of our district to start using Amazon more. It's going to end up saving us quite a bit of money. You look at Riley Electric Construction, we had an issue at Harrell where the power kept going out. And we tried many different ways to fix it. Finally, we just had to go with the nuclear option because nothing else worked. And we had to buy a whole new circuit breaker for that campus. But that has seemed to have fixed the issue and we haven't had the power go out recently. Let's see, we also had HVAC repairs to the front office over at Herald too, and that is working well as well. I'll take any other questions that you have on the check register.
Any specific questions? If not, we'll move on then to item number 7, which is new business. Item 7A is by common consent, the board agrees to consider as one action item the following, which is found on page 51 to 60. 1 is approval of the regular board minutes of October 18th, 2022. 2 is the approval of the special board meeting minutes of October 25th, 2022. And the 3rd is the approval of special board meeting minutes of November 1st, 2022. You've had a chance to review these in your packet. Is there a motion to approve these items? Motion made by Ms. Ramos.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Morales. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. We have, fortunately, I think, exhausted our agenda. And so the board will now enter into closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code 551.071, 551.074, to deliberate and consider the following. 8A, consider employment of contracted personnel, assistant principal. Item 8B, level 3 hearing and deliberation pursuant to board policy GGBA local. Item 8C, consider and deliberate with legal counsel regarding legal and personnel matters. And item 8D, discussion regarding intruder detection audit report. No action will be taken until a return to open session. We are entering closed session at 6:26 p.m. We now return to open session and take necessary action on matters which the board may discuss in open session and upon which action may be taken. We're returning to open session at 7:55 PM. Item 9A, consider approval of employment of contracted personnel, assistant principal.
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the following contracted employee presented as assistant principal, Dr. Olivia Ballesteros for the H.M. King campus.
You've heard the recommendation of administration. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion made by Mr. Garcia,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Chapa. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. Item 9B, discussion and possible action regarding level 3 hearing pursuant to board policy DGBA local. Fellow board members, based on all the relief that was requested, having already been granted to grievance by the level 2 grievance process, I move that the level 2 grievance decision be upheld. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Coupal, seconded by Mr. Chapa. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. There being no further action, I declare this meeting adjourned at 7:57 PM.
Yeah. I